And the collector's office, I know, cheers. Hey, it's wonderful. So go and go. And I'll say, I tried to get fancy. So if there's a blank slide, just go to the next one. Okay, what I'd like to do is review some of the numbers from actually the current tax season, but November, December. So go and go to the next slide. If that works, go to the next one. That's me. Okay, and go roll through the next two. Our call volume, of course, goes up. October, we had 46, almost 4,700 calls. In November, we had a larger number, it's almost 12,000. And then December, it actually dropped off. So you can see the amount of calls during tax season. And for those of you who are not familiar, tax season officially begins November 1st of that calendar year, and taxes are due by December 31st without penalty and interest. So you can see the call volume goes up significantly. We, the office, through a third party, mailed 147,000, almost 150,000 letters. And some of those had both personal and real estate statements combined. And that was our third party printer. My office mailed additional letters, so probably over 150,000. We had over 5,500 emails. So if you like numbers, this we'll start with that. Almost 5,500 emails, which is 142 per business day. So it becomes a tidal wave, and it is what it is. We do have a new option. I'll turn this around. I like show and tell. So the new option is pay by phone. And we had almost 1,600, almost $1 million. So this year and every year going forward, there are 4 different ways to pay. You can do it online. You could do it at countycollector.com. The top right hand or icon is the actual phone number to call to pay. You can do it the old-fashioned way by mailing your statement with your check, which means you're going to trust the United States Postal Service to deliver, which I would not recommend that. In my 3 years doing this, I would never trust the USPS for various reasons. And or you can come into 109 and pay. But again, the pay by phone should be pretty easy. I did it for one of mine. It takes about 5 minutes because you have to key in the numbers so the system can pull up your account and pay. So in the November, December timeframe, we collected almost $300 million. So it's a pretty big chunk of change, as the treasurer knows. That goes into UMB, and there are things that happen behind the scenes with UMB. And the breakdown on that 300 million, more or less, we had about 2,700 in-house customers, people come in to pay via web. We had almost 59,000 people pay online. And I was going to check last year to see if that number is up or not, and I forgot to do that. And then about 50,000 statements are mailed and to the courthouse. And just to visualize, go back one, just to visualize the number of statements, if you were to take the mail trays that we receive, and if you were to stack them from down in the first level from the door, the inside door, just stack them end on end, it would reach to about the restroom down on the level. So it's that much mail comes in that we process. And I know these are kind of small. I apologize for that. But this shows, and I've got to look at this a little closer myself, the statements processed from 21, 22, and 23. So 23 is the current tax year. 22 is the bottom, the orange. 21 is the gray, and 23, or excuse me, and the blue is 23. So you can see there's been a noticeable improvement in the timing of the statement process. And if you just look from the blue back to the gray, make sure my numbers are right, or excuse me, the orange 22, that is what one of the significant changes going from previous tax season to the current tax season is the ability of the office to process a statement in a timely fashion. Last year's tax, and for various reasons, last year's processing, we were about 8 weeks behind, 6 to 10 weeks. So someone who mailed their statement the last week of December, which a lot of people in this county love to do that, which is fine, those statements were not processed till February. So we had some opportunities to improve. And we did, the office responded. We looked at what can be done differently so that we can get those statements and those checks turned around, because obviously people are calling, did you get my check? It hasn't hit my bank. I'm worried. Do I need to mail another one, et cetera? So that it creates problems for the office as well as the taxpayer, because they don't know if their statement was received. So as you can see, just and this is collections to date, same 3 years, there was a significant change in processing those statements in a much more timely fashion. And I think until Scott's here, maybe the end of December, we were actually processing everything received the prior day got processed the next day. So we stayed on top of it, even in spite of, and you can see the steepness of the curve, a significant amount of letters coming in, obviously toward the end of December. So that's the good news for the taxpayers and the office. This is just a breakdown, and this is calendar year 2023, which is not the same as tax year, but it gives you an idea of the order of magnitude. Real estate is about 75% or so of the total collected. Personal is about 20% more or less. Oh, that's not the right slide. I forgot to save it. I did fill in the other numbers for PACE. Oh, there we go. PACE and et cetera. So you can see 325 million in just round numbers collected, and personal or real and personal are the overwhelming numbers. Of course, railroad and state and local is another significant number, but total collected for the office, 325 million. In December alone, 275 million. So as I said, it's just a tidal wave in December that hits, and we know that. And this year we did, I think, a much better job. The office did a much better job preparing and planning, having adequate folks working that, having people who have the experience from last year. It's very difficult, as you can imagine, to walk into the collector's office never having done anything, never having used the software, and understand the process. There is a learning curve to the process. So December, as you can see, is a big year, big month, the biggest month of the year. The next two slides, for those of you who have extra time on your hands, can read just brief snippets of the RSMO, the Revised Statutes of Missouri, about as far as what the office is required to do as far as the RSMO, where the office is located, when we have to send a statement out. So go to the next slide. Again, just a few more. Chapter 52 does that. Chapter 139 and 140 are the other for those of you who want to really look into statute. 139, 140. The process itself, again, it is fairly straightforward, but most taxpayers have no idea of the complexity. And the tax year goes all year long. For example, my colleagues kind of in the back 2 rows, the assessor's office, tax season starts January 1st, because on January 1st, whatever you own is what's taxed. State of Missouri does not prorate, and I've had discussions, as all of us in the collector's office have had, discussions with taxpayers. State of Missouri does not prorate. If you own that vehicle January 1st and sell it January 2nd, guess what? You're paying the full ride for that vehicle. So the assessor takes 2 months. I think statements are due by the end of February, more or less, by March 1st. Yeah, maybe kind of in theory. So then the assessor goes through the process, and I'm not going to get into the details. That's for the assessor's show. They determine the value of either the real estate or the personal property. And there is a window of appeal. Is it 30 days? 60 days?
2 separate appeals.
Okay. That's what I was thinking of. So the month of July, and not most, but as far as real estate, that's the of the two. Personal real estate is obviously the value that gets appealed much more frequently than personal, just because of the taxes associated with that are much, much higher. You can try. You can try. Yeah. Yeah, it's usually innate, but I've had people call me, boy, this is way too high. What went wrong? I pass them off to colleagues on the first level. So there is that window of appeal in July for real estate. And all the while, the county clerk is working with various political subdivisions, and we'll show what clerk's office does in just a second, because each political subdivision, for example, school district, library, fire, they submit a levy. Their boards go through the process of determining the levy for the coming tax year. All of those levies go to the clerk's office, who accumulates and reviews that process. And then by statute, let me back up one, by statute, clerk's office has to deliver what's called the tax book to the collector's office by October 31st. So that's why that November 1st, your taxes should be available online, because my office has the assessed value from the assessor's office, the levies from the clerk's office, and my office mails statements and then collects and distributes. People don't realize that we, the collector, don't keep all this money, nor does the county keep all this money. What's collected in the previous month is distributed, and this is by statute, by the 15th of the following month. So that $275 million collected in December by statute was distributed to about 35 or so different political subdivisions by January the 15th. Okay. And if anyone has questions, don't just jump up and ask. If you're interested in your levy, because where you live determines your levy. And on the tax statement, it shows that on the left-hand side, school, fire, whatever the case may be, if there's a city. But if you go to the collector's website, in the top, I forgot what it says, but there's a drop down. And if you're interested in the levies, and this is just a snip of all the levies for every political subdivision. So if you live in Springfield, which is R12, you're paying 3.9787, and it gives you a 9-year history of how the levy where you live has changed. So all the levies are there. There we go. It's resources, tax levies, and that's the entire if you have an interest. Because again, people don't understand it. If you live in a republic, you pay one levy for that school district. And if you live in Springfield or Willard, you pay a different levy. It's all driven by where you live. Okay. It was not coming up. Yeah, go back. So just information for the taxpayers or for you if you have an interest. Part of what I've been trying to do over the past 3 years is what I call inform and educate, because of the understanding of the process. And I'm not talking about getting into the really detailed weeds, but even just a high level understanding is somewhat lacking in taxpayers. So the office has done a couple of different things. The first is, and I think we have time. Would you go to the web or back up on the website in the bottom part of the website? There are two videos. The one on the bottom left is just about a 2.5 minute video of how the tax process, and we're going to run this, actually works in the state of Missouri. Bottom right is how to actually pay taxes online. I think.
Hello, have you just moved to Missouri and have questions about the vehicle registration process? Well, we're here to help. First of all, if you've just moved to Missouri, you have 30 days to get your vehicle registered. You'll need a few documents to get this task completed. Title or prior registration, proof of insurance, vehicle inspection if vehicle is older than 10 years old or over 149,999 miles, paid tax receipt or waiver, non-assessment. Okay, now to help you with the tax part, in Missouri you have two types of taxes, personal property and real estate. Your vehicles would be considered personal property. To get your car licensed in Missouri, you'll need a paid personal property tax receipt from Missouri or a tax waiver non-assessment. If you have moved here from another state, you'll need to contact the assessor's office to get put into the tax system to obtain a tax waiver or non-assessment. You should now be ready to register your car. So now let's talk about the future. Now that you've gone to the assessor's office and they have put you into the system, you'll receive an assessment list in late December or early January. You'll need to fill this out and mail it back to the assessor's office by March 1st. If you do not receive one, you'll need to notify them. When they receive this list, they will value the property and the collector's office will generate your tax bill and mail you a tax statement in November. Payment is due by December 31st. You'll need this personal property paid receipt to renew your vehicle registration in the future. Failure to receive a tax bill does not relieve the taxpayer of their obligation to pay taxes when due. Late fees will be applied on all payments made after December 31st.
So what happens if I don't mail the assessment list back?
You would be charged a late penalty from the assessor's office. You wouldn't receive your personal property tax statement, and you would be charged late fees if paid after December 31st. Also, you wouldn't have a paid tax receipt to get your car license renewed. So please remember, mail the assessment list back by March 1st. Property taxes due by December 31st. And you need a paid receipt to renew your car tags if you lived in the county and owned the vehicle on January 1st. Do you have more questions about personal property? Or maybe you have questions about real estate taxes? Go to www.missouricollectors.org.
People from out of state, where in most states do not collect personal property. Real estate's fairly common, but they don't understand. I've had more than one conversation, and it's never pleasant about, I owe what? Yeah, you didn't send your register or your form in 2022, so you owe 2 years plus penalty and interest. So it's not a pleasant conversation. So that's part of what this is about. And this is a poster I'm working with the Department of Revenue, and you'll see one in the collector's office. So if someone comes in and they're standing in line, which everyone who goes into DMV goes in and stands in line, is 2 QR codes. The bottom left is that 2.5-minute Collectors Association video. The one on the bottom right QR is how to actually pay taxes online. So we're trying to be very proactive in notifying taxpayers, giving them an opportunity to become a little more educated and informed, if for no reason to help them, and also helps my office, to be quite honest, avoid having difficult conversations with taxpayers about why they're paying penalty and interest. So with another thing that we've done, actually had last year, and they're to my left and to your right, is just a little trifold. Same thing, it explains, that's the back page, or I guess the outside page. The next actually goes into the step-by-step about how to pay, especially for people who are who've moved to Missouri from another state and they don't understand the process, just to help them. And if you'd like one, please feel free. Another thing that we've done, I guess we started last year, something called Collector's Crumbs. And that does not mean, for the assessors in the room, that the collector is a crumb. I'm sure you understand that. But it's just a little snippet. If you follow us on Facebook and some of the other social media, we put this out about once a week. It's just a little tidbit that hopefully is timely on what's going on at that point in time. So if you go to the next one, so please feel free, for example, e-check payments. If you pay online with an e-check, there's no charge. It's just like a paper check. But the warning, and the commission knows we had someone who paid by e-check, and unfortunately, you have to key punch your routing number and your account number correctly. And this lady transposed the last 2 numbers, takes time, and of course it did it the 21st of December, it takes time for the bank to ping us, this payment failed. And if you go back and look at those curves, getting that response on the 28th of December is not a good time for us to reach out. We try, but again, it's a tidal wave. So part of this is just to let people know the process, and if there are things they should watch out for. For example, if you pay via e-check, that debit should hit your checking account within about 2 business days, 3 at the most. And if it doesn't, something is wrong. You better pay again, because, and people don't want to double pay. What they don't realize is the software, you can only pay once. Once you paid, you can try and pay as many times as you want. The software will not accept a second payment. So, okay. So that's, again, if you'd like to follow us on some of the various social media, please do. The Collector's Crumbs, I think, are pretty interesting. They're pretty short. We keep them just to 1 slide only, and it's some topics that tend to be pertinent, if possible, for that time of year. So with that, we have a little time left. Questions? I know there's some really good questions out in the audience that people are just dying to ask. Yes, sir.
Processing went from 60 days to next day. What was the process change that your office made to get it down to that quick of a response?
Right. The question is, how do we make that what I would consider a fairly significant improvement in just processing time. There are multiple things. We actually developed a flow chart, and my background is an engineer and I love flow charts. It was actually a flow chart that showed all the steps. Once that statement is received and it's opened, all the steps that that statement goes through. And of course, if it goes correctly, it's much simpler. But for example, what do we do if the check's not signed? We get those. What do we do if the check's short? What do we do if the check's long? What do we do if this, I mean, there are all sorts of permutations and combinations. So we laid out this process and we tried to implement it last year. It was a little clunky first year, but this year is a much more refined. This year, again, similar to last year, but a little better, we had a dedicated team to handling what we call trouble mail. For example, those 50,000 letters that come in, for those that are correct, they just get processed. For those where something is wrong, we consider that trouble mail. And it could be something very, very simple. So we had a dedicated team specifically for trouble mail. So one group was handling statements and processing, which is the majority of what we received. The other team, trouble mail. So they were following up on that daily. And I think the third leg of the successful change is, unlike the previous years where the mailroom was in this bottom corner, which is about, it's not even the size, I guess, of the really, if you take the area for these benches on my right, left, it was not even that big. And you were getting 50,000 letters trying to manage that. So thanks to the commission, that whole process was moved to the other end, to the west end of the building where the veterans space was. So we have much more space to receive, for people to actually be together, because last year trouble mail had to go from that room up to 107. So we kept everything in what I think of as an assembly line. So we weren't moving letters through the building. The people who were handling trouble mail could interact immediately with their colleagues who are processing. So the communication flow was much improved, as well as the flow of that trouble mail. So I think those three items made the significant difference of how we made that significant improvement. In fact, I told the folks work, I said, well, if we can just stay on top of the mail until the middle of December, because last year, right after statements hit around Thanksgiving, we got behind, we stayed behind. So my goal was, let's stay on top of things till the middle of December, and we actually stayed on top of things really through the year. So we exceeded expectations. But so those are the three things I think that really made an impact. Yes, sir, Justin.
You said that your software won't allow for duplicate payments. So if I've got, let's say I have a mortgage company and that's tax payment. So if they get that paid well enough ahead of time, if I go on and try and pay it, late December after you guys have already processed it, it will stop me?
Like, you cannot pay. And unfortunately, and we had more of that last year, this year, we still have, and I don't understand how this happens, people who, because we don't mail a statement to someone who has an escrow. We work with the various escrow agents, and there are about 50,000 real estate accounts that are being paid by escrow. So I'm not sure why someone would pay their taxes when they're making that monthly payment. But in some cases, the homes are sold, things like that happen. But we tried something this year which tended to work to prevent, we can actually prevent someone from paying online. And so we prohibited those to try to prevent the individual homeowner from paying, because we knew what we call e-payers. The e-payers were going to pay that account. Now, if they don't, we'll work through that. But again, that's an example of a trouble mail where homeowner pays, escrow agent tries to pay. Okay, we've got to work this out. But as I said, you can just pay once. And so that prevents that escrow agent from actually paying, showing paid in the system. They still send us the money. So we've got to work through how to get the money back. But this year was better than last as far as having that what we call a double payment, at least an attempted double payment. But it still happens. So got a few minutes left. Other questions? A few folks from my office. Did I miss anything? Anything else to add? Well, one other topic, changing gears. And I need a whole session on this. Senate Bill 190. how many people in the room are familiar with Senate Bill 190? Yeah, most. At a high level, the legislature passed, there we go. I don't know if you can read that or see that or not. Passed a bill, there it is, last year that in effect freezes real estate taxes for, I'll just say senior citizens. There's certain qualifications you have to meet. The commission passed the ordinance August 28th of last year. So this year for 2024, between the assessor's office, the clerk's office, my office, and the commission, we're working through the process of how to manage that. So, and the legislature is aware of the problems or I'll just say the problems in the original bill. It was not nearly as detailed or specific in certain areas as it should have been. So the Missouri Association of Counties is working with the General Assembly to try to pass a fix, and that may or may not occur. But anyway, just FYI, and most people in the room are not old enough to qualify, but you can always stop by and ask. So that's probably the biggest, and that's the form, the application. That would be the biggest issue that, again, those four offices deal with this year is how to implement SB 190. So got a couple minutes left. Any questions? So as I say, you can go to the collector's website, look at your tax levies. You can review the how-tos on the videos. So.
And SB 190 will take effect for sure this year.
Yes. Yeah, the commission passed the ordinance, so we have to do something. And part of what we would like is this fix to occur in Jefferson City. And if not, I'm going to work with the commission on trying to provide guidelines in the absence of clarity from the General Assembly. But as I said, the offices are working through the process. We have I think the clerk's office has the application online, although we're talking about making a change to the deadline of the date, because you can see there's a process. And if the clerk's office receives an application on November 1st, that's too late. That train has left the station months ago. So that's part of what we're working through is how to manage that process so the public is aware of their responsibility if they want to apply. There is a deadline to do that, but we have a ways to go to get to that point, to implement it successfully. So, and if no, yes, sir. Oh, I thought you, all right. In that case, I won't stop that. Thank you for your attendance again. If you have any questions, reach out. Thank you.